That was moved over by Mr. Short.
After reading that, and because of the, I'd have to say, controversy during the election with saying that, raising of salaries to get compensation benefits as far as retirement, and seeing that, it will cost $9,000 a year, if it's 2 years more that Brian and I are on it if we're not reelected. If we continue that way, it'll go up to 15,000. Is that right? Per year? And I don't see a reason to, if it's something that the state said you no longer have to abide by, we are part-time employees.
We are. Could you discuss the fiscal impact that this will have?
Sure. You're correct that because of the change in the law, the existing council members that were on board prior to the last election are entitled to continue participating in the retirement system. There is no such legal requirement for the newly elected council or mayor. And that the discussion that was had that led to this being brought forward for discussion was should there be an equivalent or alternative retirement contribution of an equal amount available to the newly electeds. The amounts we're talking about, it's currently 15.76%. That's scheduled to go to 18.03 on July 1st. So there is a cost of just over $9,000 for the 4 individuals if you implement this the way it's drafted for the 1-year cost for fiscal 12-13. So that's the dollar amount that you're referring to. And again, this is a choice the council has to make in terms of whether or not to provide an alternative retirement contribution. And if you decide to do it, at what amount? There are a number of options besides the one that was proposed tonight.
What does that actually equate to? I'm sorry, Mayor, go right ahead.
If I could ask you just one question concerning that. First of all, if the law had not been changed, the city would be unencumbered for those amounts anyway. Is that correct?
Yeah, under the existing city ordinance, the previous councils had encumbered the city to continue to pay that.
Okay, thank you.
My question is, it will go away in 2 years. If we're not elected, it will go down. And what do you do with employees, let's say that are part-time? Are they able to do the same thing? Is it just for the council? Is it for part-time employees? Is it for, you got to look at this both ways.
From the way the statute works, the decision was made by the legislature that part-time council and mayors were no longer going to be eligible for retirement. And that now none of the seasonal or part-time city employees are eligible for retirement. It's only full-time or what we call regular part-time, more than 0.75 FTE that are eligible for retirement.
And in most cases, don't you have to work for a certain amount of time for the city to have that become applicable?
Actually, it depends on what status you're hired into.
You have to be re-elected after 4 years to have that become applicable for you.
I think you're.
Is this the vesting that we're talking about?
Yeah, I think we're confusing
Yeah, let's talk about vesting
term.
so that we all understand
Okay.
that for both electeds and for regular employees, there's a 4-year vesting for the original Tier 1 retirement system. There's also a 4-year vesting requirement for the new Tier 2 that only applies to the new full-time employees of the city. And so there is a vesting requirement as to when you would actually get that money. Now, we are the last remaining city in the old contributory retirement system, which means that 6% of the money that you as elected officials and employees hired prior to last July 1st contribute is actually contributed by the employee, even though it's paid by the city. So that money is refundable if you do not vest. So 6% of the 15.76% is refundable.
Okay.
So how much money is presently paid per part-time employee into this defined benefit program?
For elected officials, it's
For elected officials.
15.76% of their base salary, and the base salary is just around $11,000.
Okay, so 8%, 8 point whatever percent of 11,000. What does that roughly equate to?
Well, you're asking me to do math, and that would be dangerous. And that it's around $1,000
It's around $1,000. Okay, and that's per
per elected official.
per month or per year? The
Per year. It's an annual cost.
So the annual cost per year is $1,000.
That's correct.
Okay. So, what we're talking about here is if we don't pass this tonight, then two council members could, assuming that there's the residents of their districts decide to continue to elect them, there would be a pay equity or pay disparity. Is that correct then? in
There
essence?
would be a pay disparity. Now, the law does not require you to resolve the pay disparity, but there
Okay.
would be one.
Okay.
Well, and the other thing I bring up at that, I think going into this full well, when you were running for office, knew that there was a pay parity because that was going to change. That is something that was known before. I mean, it was discussed well in advance, and I really think that's how, some people were accused of giving raises just for this kind of, parity, if you want to put it, but it no longer existed, and that was known at the time that was going to happen.
Well, I understand, but at the same time, when the subject came up about 3 weeks ago, the request from both of you were to, well, yes, we'd like to go ahead and have the pay increase so we could continue to receive
Well, no,
that benefit from the city.
Well, I think everybody.
So rather than
Right.
putting us all on an equal basis.
Right, everybody got to sign a paper saying, would
That's
you
right.
like an increase? Because we'd have
Yeah.
to have an increase, and I
Yeah.
admit that we signed an increase.
Yeah.
If you signed an increase, I have no clue, if that's what it was for.
I'd
If
like
you
to make
decided to do that.
a comment here. I think for the sake of those participating residents, public, you probably feel like you've come in the middle of a 3-act play. Let me just define what's being discussed here in general terms, because it's really interesting. It's the kind of stuff that makes the newspapers and gets people inflamed. Because of a change in the Utah state law, elected officials who began their terms after July 1, 2011 are no longer eligible for the participatory plan that the state had in place, whereby some percentage of their salary was in fact contributed to a retirement plan. Therefore, as you're looking at us, 4 of us are not eligible for this, and 2 of the continuing council members are eligible for it. And therefore, as we sit here today, we're effectively being paid at different rates, which is nominal, by the way, but different. And so the proposal before us is whether or not to separately contribute on the part of those who are not eligible to participate in the state plan an amount equal to what the other 2 council members who are continuing are receiving as a result of their participation. There's a lot of nuance and subtext to this, and maybe some more of this will come out in the discussion here, but that's what we're talking about, if that's helpful to anyone.